So what motivated this research? We were walking down U Street, which is a busy, popular, gentrified neighborhood in DC with lots of bars, restaurants, and nightlife, late one Saturday night. Vanessa and I noticed how many different groups of people are on the streets. Hipsters, some older people, some white, Black, Latinx, Asian, yet no one seemed to be interacting with one another. This led to a discussion about my prior work on diversity seeking and target marketing, and the realization that few studies have really focused on the consumption implications in these types of changing neighborhoods.
This was also related to some prior work I had done on diversity seeking in the context of housing. So we decided to explore these issues further. We interviewed a diverse set of people, diverse by age, race, ethnicity, and gender, about their social interactions, their consumption practices, and their experiences of a sense of community across 3 different gentrifying neighborhoods. We found through this research that gentrification does increase diversity, but in a superficial way in these neighborhoods. When residents experience changes in consumption opportunities accompanied by limited social interaction, this leads to what we term faux diversity. Faux diversity is a term that we coined to describe the presence of diverse groups without interaction between them.
Right, and we also found that there wasn't a strong sense of community in these neighborhoods as well. So let's talk a little bit about what we consider to be impact as we develop this research. We hope that this interdisciplinary qualitative study would really contribute to business, society, and these types of changing communities. And we also wanted it to be relevant to multiple stakeholders, including scholars who care about theoretical takeaways, as well as clear, actionable directions for practitioners.
In addition to the article, we created a documentary film in order to reach stakeholders beyond the academic community. Although we aren't filmmakers, we are proud to report that our film has won a number of awards, including the ACR People's Choice Award and an Indie Capital Award for Best Documentary Short, among others. So here's a brief excerpt.
Back in the day on the beltway, pushing that over and smoke some.
You displace all of the original long-established residents, and then you don't have that cultural diversity.
As far as diversity of actual residents, it's actually pretty limited, I would say, to middle-class white folks.
When I first moved here, it was solidly African-American. Now there's a mix of people.
The newcomers maybe are not as interested in the old-timers, and vice versa. It leads to some trust issues.
Diverse, but we're still separate.
Open new store, new supermarket. They call Whole Foods. They open a different restaurant also.
There's no question about whether or not the demographics are changing. Things are particular not because they're new, but because they've stuck around.
The city government might be more willing to listen to more vocal newer residents than non-vocal long-time residents.
Does everybody have the same taste? No, those are middle class tastes.
These differences in consumption norms and preferences are clearly a source of tension.
Dog parks and coffee houses.
The space that they were designed for human need has been turned into something for needs of dogs.
If you only follow the money, you're ultimately only going to cater to a culture that has money.
So you say, is revitalization good for cities? It depends.
We have worked really hard to share our research with a variety of stakeholder groups. We have presented to many scholarly audiences, providing the film and the article to faculty to use in their classes. We presented at a conference of the African American Collaborative Obesity Research Network, a group that brings together interdisciplinary academics and cross-sector practitioners to address obesity in African Americans. This presentation served as a stimulus to discuss neighborhood issues and the influence of neighborhood realities on health outcomes. We presented our findings at the DC Lab Conference, a Metropolitan Policy Center seminar, and the Marketing and Public Policy Conference, among other forums. We have shared our research with practitioners, for example, in Boston at a national meeting of LOCUS, a national trade association for sustainable real estate developers, and to executives at the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority, as they wanted their managers to understand current issues in the neighborhoods they serve. We have also engaged with government officials and policymakers. We were invited to present to City of Charlotte government officials, along with several community organizers and local politicians, to facilitate a discussion about the role of community organizations in mitigating negative effects of gentrification and what neighborhoods can do to promote more interactions. We also held a screening and discussion for teachers and administrators in the DC public school system. Other events have included a panel discussion sponsored by the DC chapter of the African American Real Estate Professionals, as well as a screening and discussion sponsored by one of the Smithsonian museums. We have disseminated our findings to community members via social media with a Dog Parks Facebook page where 371 followers share information and discuss issues related to gentrification. We have engaged local communities through a host of events at churches, at local organizations, and businesses. We were pleased to do our small part in producing deeper community relations at these events where folks from the same neighborhood who had never met were talking, laughing, and hugging their neighbors across racial and ethnic lines.
These are just a few examples of the ways that we think about the impact of this research. We hope that this work would highlight an important overlooked context, and that by exposing the types of tensions that occur in gentrified neighborhoods, all stakeholders, from residents to retailers, can come together in productive ways to support a sense of community among diverse residents in gentrified neighborhoods worldwide.
We would like to thank the AMA and EBSCO for this award, as well as our creative director, Elise Perry, the artists who contributed original music to our film, to all of our participants, the JPP&M editor, as well as anonymous reviewers. We are truly honored and humbled and look forward to extending this contribution in future research. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.